I'm Rolene Marks. Welcome to Modiin and Beyond. Join me every Sunday between 3 and 4 on Radio Modiin as we take a look at what's happening in Modiin, Israel, and beyond. I'm Rolene Marks, and as I always say every Tuesday morning, it's not Sunday, it's Tuesday. We really have to sort out that intro. Welcome to Modiin and Beyond on Radio Modiin with me, Rolene Marks. And as always, I have a jam-packed show. In fact, today is all about the ladies, some real girl power. We're going to be speaking to Emily Schrader. Emily is a journalist, an activist, and also the CEO of social media company The Socialite. We're going to be talking about her recent trip to Armenia. Very, very interesting. We will then be crossing live to the United Nations Human Rights Council in Geneva and speaking to the legal counsel and UN representative for NGO Monitor and Herzberg. She is defending Israel against the very, very hostile Commission of Inquiry. And then, of course, we're going to be checking in the world of entertainment with the queen of all things entertainment, Yael Kinar. And we're going to be talking about Kourtney Kardashian, how she revealed her pregnancy. I know she loves to invade our privacy, as well as somebody who got the can from Spotify. This and the best music, you're not going to want to miss it. But first up, we're going to be crossing to Tel Aviv to a lady who's just come back from Armenia, Emily Schrader. Welcome back to Modiin and Beyond. Emily is a journalist. She is a formidable activist for women's rights, especially Iranian women, and the CEO of The Socialite. Emily, you were in Armenia. Very, very interesting place to visit. Tell us about it. What took you to Armenia?
So much for having me. I'm happy to be here. Again, always good to be on your show. Armenia, I went with a delegation of experts, journalists, former elected officials, a few other religious clergy leaders. And the purpose of the trip was really to hear the Armenian side, hear about the situation and the threat that actually the Christians in Armenia are facing. Now, Armenia is a very interesting place because it's actually the first Christian nation that ever existed in history. However, geographically, much like Israel, it's not got the best luck in terms of neighbors. I mean, they have a historical issue with Turkey due to the Armenian genocide, in which the Ottomans, the predecessors to the modern state of Turkey, attempted to wipe them off the map completely because they were Christian. Now they're also dealing with a very intense conflict with Azerbaijan over a disputed territory in Nagorno-Karabakh. But in addition to that, Azerbaijan is also invading, specific areas of sovereign Azerbaijan in, indisputable areas. And that's what happened both in 2020 and 2021. And that's sort of the conflict that's brewing now. And in fact, what you see on the Azerbaijani side, despite being allies with Israel over strategic interests with Iran, is that there's a lot of rhetoric and incitement against Christians and against ethnic Armenians coming from the Azerbaijani side. So it's a very intensive conflict, not dissimilar to what's happening in Israel, but it was a privilege to be able to meet with state officials and discuss the situation on the ground.
Very tricky, as you mentioned, Azerbaijan, because ties between Israel and Azerbaijan are growing steadily stronger. So to balance that, the sensitivity to Armenia, the Armenian experience and narrative, as well as recognize that Israel and Azerbaijan are becoming more and more strategic allies. Now, one area that people may be familiar with, and I wish there was more understanding of it, is the Armenian genocide. And a lot of controversy here about Israel's recognition or non-recognition of the Armenian genocide. Where do we stand with that?
So there have been a lot of state officials, including Yair Lapid and the former President Rivlin, who have acknowledged the Armenian genocide and have in fact called on the state of Israel as an official government position to recognize the Armenian genocide. Historically speaking, they haven't yet, just to clarify. Historically speaking, Israel was reluctant to recognize the Armenian genocide because Turkey still denies it and, in fact, has criminalized recognition of the Armenian genocide internally. They've done a lot of work to erase historical evidence and to distance themselves from any form of responsibility, despite the fact that the main architect, mastermind of the Armenian genocide was, in fact, the founder of the modern state of Turkey, Ataturk. He did have a role in the Armenian genocide, a significant one, and yet this has never been acknowledged. And that's because Turkey uses its political influence and political power to blackmail and harass its partners into silence on the Armenian genocide. And I don't think that I know if they've been successful in convincing any state to deny the Armenian genocide, but the pressure that they place on states is immense. And when the United States formally recognized the Armenian genocide, actually at the beginning of Biden's term, this last term, so it was recent, Turkey threatened to cut off relations. They threatened to damage their partnership with NATO. They threatened all kinds of things, Erdogan. And at the end of the day, they did nothing, which is what we've seen, historically speaking, as well with other nations that formally recognize the Armenian genocide. So I understand that Israel's concern is different because we need the relationship with Turkey. But at the same time, I think that we have a moral obligation to recognize the Armenian genocide. This has gone on long enough. And I don't think that Turkey will do anything despite their threats.
I mean, I was just about to say we are a people who have experienced genocide several times through our history. The biggest genocide in human history just in the last century. If you walk through the streets of the old city of Jerusalem, you very much see a presence, a reminder of the Armenian genocide by some of the posters on the wall in the Armenian quarter. I don't think many people realize that the old city is divided up into several quarters, one of them being the Armenian quarter. But now you're in this incredible country, Armenia. What were some of the most notable moments for you?
I mean, I think visiting the Armenian Genocide Memorial, the official state memorial, similar to what we have with Yad Vashem, was incredibly powerful, sobering, but powerful and important. I think I would highly recommend that any Israeli go visit and educate themselves about the Armenian genocide because it is strikingly similar. The lead up to the Armenian genocide, the rhetoric that the Turks were using, and the small scale attacks and pogroms, similar to what we saw in Germany and throughout Europe in the 1930s. And I think any historian or any person who is intellectually curious about how such atrocities like the Holocaust can occur must do their due diligence and research the Armenian genocide and understand the patterns of behavior. Interestingly, Armenians get it. Armenians really understand Israel's situation, and despite the fact with the war with Azerbaijan now, and despite the fact that Israel actually sold weapons to Azerbaijan that were used against Armenian civilians, so you would think that there would be a little bit more hostility towards Israel on the ground from the people, especially right now. So I was a little bit apprehensive about being, open about the fact I'm Israeli. But the fact of the matter is, from the very top levels, as in the president whom I met with, to people on the street, everybody has a heart for Israel as well. They really, really love Israel. And I think the only negative response that I received were people who were just deeply, deeply saddened that a country like Israel, which shares so much history and so much similarity in terms of persecution, doesn't quite understand or see Israel's position despite going through very, very similar things. There's a number of reasons for that. I understand the political interest, but at what point do we step up and say, okay, we support Armenia, we side with Armenia on this issue because it's the right thing to do?
Oh, we've taken that stance more or less with the Russia-Ukraine war. We've been very vocal in the fact that we stand with the Ukrainian people. We have the First Lady of Ukraine out here at the moment, being hosted by our First Lady, Michael Herzberg. So, how do we change this in Israel, that we do take a more moral, vocal stand with regards to the Armenian genocide and its recognition?
Well, I mean, I think at the government level, the government just needs to step up and recognize it. There really is no other alternative. In terms of relations with Armenia in general, Israel has good relations. We have diplomatic relations. But I do think that Israel and all of the West, in fact, should really work with Armenia to help develop the country and turn Armenia more towards a strategic partner for the West as well. I know right now they're somewhat reliant on both Russia and unfortunately Iran because it's the only country that they share a border with. So it's sort of like Israel's strategic interest. We understand that it's important to have peaceful relations with neighbors, even if we don't agree with them. But at the same time, it's Israel's job and also the job of the United States and partners to get Armenia to a place where they are more independent and not reliant on neighbors who are enemies of democracy and enemies of freedom, because Armenia is a democratic country. It is a country that has free speech, and it's surrounded by countries which don't respect those same values. So they are a natural, a strategic even ally, both for Israel and the United States, and it's just not being utilized to its fullest potential. And I think that's a real shame. I think both countries, US and Israel, need to do more to foster that relationship and expand ties.
Can we grow these ties like we have with our Emirati friends, our Bahraini friends? Can we grow them on a person-to-person level? Because I'm a firm believer that any kind of peace building, any kind of diplomatic building, it comes from the ground up, not necessarily from the top down. How do we, as ordinary
I will tell
Israelis—
you, it's already there. There is no tension. In fact, there's a historical allyship of thousands of years, similar to the people of Iran, not the government, but the people of Iran. The friendship is already there. The people already want more relations. The people, both ironically in Iran and in Armenia, they understand Israel better than Israel understands them. And I think that that Israelis as individual people, also as a government, really need to step up now and reach out to those allies on the ground, because there is a people-to-people friendship and even support, despite all the complicating political factors.
Well, you hear that, Israelis. Our next place to vacation, Armenia. I heard the food is really outstanding, and we love to eat. Emily Schrader, journalist, outstanding activist, CEO of The Social Out, and just general all-round awesome lady. Thank you so much for being on Modiin and Beyond. We're going to take a short music break. After this, we go from Armenia to Geneva.
1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. It's a motorcycle drive-by, baby, drive kind eyes. I think it's about time we headed home. Walking on this Tyrone with my damn high hopes. Country boys don't die alone. Reading poetry on the shade tree. That woman, she's my baby. I will be in Richmond by tonight. With so much shame inside me, I just wanna hide me, but they wanna hear me sing my songs under lights. It's a motorcycle drive-by, baby, drying kind eyes. I think it's about time we headed home. Walking up this Tyrone with my damn high hopes. The country boys don't die alone. so fleeting, and I have been trying to save it while I can. Look on her face, all these hot, humid days, and the boys in my damn band. It's a motorcycle drive-by. Baby, dry your kind eyes. I think it's about time we headed home. Walking such a tightrope with my damn high hopes. Country boys don't die alone. Reading poetry under shade trees. A woman, she's my baby. I will be in Richmond by tonight. With so much shame inside me, I just wanna hide me. They wanna hear me sing my songs under lights.
Radio Modiin, התושבים מדברים. Radio Modiin, התושבים מדברים.
Hi.
לחננה, הבית שלך זה הלב שלנו. לחננה, תתרגלו להגיד ניכר. לחננה, הבית שלך זה הלב שלנו. תתרגלו להגיד ניכר. לחננה.
שלטק מודיעין הוא מתחם עבודה שיתופי ליזמים וחברות. בשלטק תמצאו עמדות עבודה אישיות, משרדים סגורים, חדרי ישיבות מרווחים, מרחבי הדרכה משודרגים, בקיצור, כל מה שעסק בצמיחה צריך. שלטק, עסקים שגדלים יחד.
טרייד סטיישן, אפליקציית המסחר זוכת הפרסים. לסחור רק עם הטוב ביותר. אליט פלטפורמס, המקבצה הפיננסית שלכם.
תקועים עם רשת איטית במשרד ובבית, או שאין מספיק קליטה ברשת האלחוטית? מפחדים שאין לכם הגנה מספיקה לבית ולעסק שלכם? שואלים את עצמכם, למה החשמל נופל לי כל הזמן? פיסיקו מחשבים, חשמל ותקשורת, היא הפתרון האולטימטיבי לעסק ולבית שלכם. עם ניסיון של 22 שנה לתחום המתח הנמוך והגבוה, נותנים לכם מענה בכל הקשור לכל עבודות החשמל בבית ובעסק שלכם. פתרונות אבטחה מתקדמות, מצלמות אבטחה, חזקות, אינטגרום ובקרות כניסה. הקמה ושדרוג רשת המחשבים והאינטרנט שלכם בעסק ובבית. התקשרו עוד היום ל-05-25-75-75-81. פיסיקו מחשבים, פתרונות משרדיים במקום אחד. תנו לניסיון לדבר.
רדיו מודיעין, התושבים מדברים. רדיו מודיעין, התושבים מדברים.
Welcome back. If you're tuning in, I'm Rolene Marks. This is Modiin and Beyond on Radio Modiin. And just a reminder, we are growing. Yes, our listenership, the amount of presenters, it's all happening here. So if you want your business to be present on Radio Modiin and want to advertise with us, please be in contact via our website at www.radiomodiin.co.il. You can also do it via our Facebook page as well. Now on Modiin and Beyond, we like to take a look at what is happening in Modiin, Israel and beyond our borders. And nothing gets our heart rate and blood pressure up like the very mention of the United Nations Human Rights Council. It's no secret that the United Nations and its various agencies like the Human Rights Council have an extremely aggressive, extremely biased attitude and view of Israel and the conflict with our neighbors, the Palestinians, and recently launched their commission of inquiry into what they call war crimes and crimes of apartheid that we are alleged to have committed against the Palestinians. And we have a true lioness on the line, live from the United Nations, from Geneva, representing NGO Monitor at the UN. She is the legal advisor for NGO Monitor, a great friend to Modiin and beyond, and I think she just rocks. And Herzberg, welcome back to Modiin and beyond.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Rolene. Great to be with you.
Good to have you. Now, you are right in the lion's den, but we don't worry about you because you are a lioness. We know that you will make mincemeat out of these haters. You are in Geneva at the Commission of Inquiry session. Can you give us a background? What is going on?
Yes, sure. So I am standing actually in front of the Palais des Nations in Geneva, where the UN Human Rights Council meets. And their June session just began yesterday. And this morning, the Commission of Inquiry on Israel will be presenting its third report to the Council.
Now, tell us a little bit about the report. What does it say? What are some of the most grotesque charges? I mean, we know with the Human Rights Council, everything is grotesque, but what are some of the charges that are just really beyond the pale?
So this report, like the previous two reports, places sole blame for the conflict on Israel. The two most egregious things I would say in this report this time around are, number one, that Israel is deliberately trying to delegitimize and silence civil society. And basically, to make this case, the COI in November and again in March met with a host of NGOs, many of whom were affiliated with the PFLP, and then several representatives of anti-Israel, BDS, and anti-Zionist NGOs. So they've taken a small cross-section of basically haters of Israel to create this false charge. Of course, they didn't meet with the thousands of NGOs that operate freely throughout Israel and dealing with Palestinian issues. And then the second terrible or highly offensive charge, I would say, is they basically accuse Jews of levying charges of anti-Semitism purely for political purposes. And so this is, again, offensive and a gross distortion and a denial of anti-Semitism.
Let's take a look at that charge, because the Commission of Inquiry is made up of 3 individuals who themselves have been found guilty of gross anti-Semitic, blatant Jew-hating comments. Let's not kid, Navi Pillay and her 2 other cohorts. And they have been called out for their anti-Semitism, including by the UN Secretary General. So do you think that that accusation is in effect trying to absolve them of their heinous accusations and their revolting history of anti-Semitic comments? We also only have to look at the UN Special Rapporteur, Francesca Albanese, who really has form as well when it comes to making comments that are beyond the pale Jew-hating.
Yeah, absolutely. All 3 of the commissioners have made egregious comments, not only prior to their appointment, egregious biased comments on Israel and how they would approach their role in violation of fact-finding standards and even UN rules. And while serving on the commission, all 3 have engaged in anti-Semitism. Last June at the debate, one of the commissioners said that Jews throw around accusations of anti-Semitism like rice at a wedding. And then in July, Malun Kothari, one of the other commissioners, said that the Jewish media, the Jewish lobby controls social media. And his comments were roundly condemned by the Human Rights Council president even, and all the Western countries, and yet he remained on the council. And then Navi Pillay denied the statements, even though it was on tape, and even though Mr. Kothari admitted he had made them. And then when they presented their second report to the General Assembly, and they were condemned again by many countries for not dealing with this issue. Navi Pillay said, what are you talking about? I've never been accused of anti-Semitism before, which is a complete lie. And she also said that she had never dealt with this, that this problem had been dealt with, which was also a complete lie, because Kothari is still on the commission today and will be there today.
Well, Navi Pillay is blatantly lying, because we know that UN Watch released a petition to have her removed as the commission head. So, it really, really befuddles me. And because we have Western countries calling them out, we brought this to the attention of the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, on numerous occasions. We've just had a situation with the UN Alliance of Civilizations, an agency of the UN, which I'm very proud to represent World WITSA on, have to cancel its special session on anti-Semitism because of the failure to include in their draft that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitism. Every single year we have this wonderful lip service coming to us from the UN AOC saying, we're committed in our fight to end anti-Semitism. We're absolutely committed to it, and yet we tell them time and time and again, not only are your mandates ludicrous and already loaded with biased language against Israel, but the commissioners that you appoint invariably have these gross histories of hating Jews.
Absolutely. It's an outrage. I don't understand it. I don't understand what particularly outrages me is I can understand countries like Pakistan, Iran, Russia, China would do something like this. They're horrible countries. They're dictatorships. They don't care about human rights or truth. But then you're dealing with Western countries, European countries, Australia, Canada, America, Britain. And although these countries voted against the creation of the COI, although some of the European countries abstained rather than voting no, they all fund this commission. I do not understand it. I don't understand how they think this helps UN credibility. It's a joke. And they should immediately cut the funding until this body is willing to reform itself.
Now, you represent NGO Monitor at the UN. Let me tell you, I think we can't thank you enough for being there, for really being in probably the most hostile environment imaginable. Take us through your role at the UN, especially at the UNHRC, how invariably you present Israel's case at a gathering like this.
So it's limited, but there are opportunities to get speaking slots at the debates of the Human Rights Council for NGOs. We have accreditation at the UN, so we're able to try to secure a slot. So today I was able to get a slot, but that's not always the case since they are limited and it's a first come, first serve sign up basis. However, so you can do that. You can speak at the council, but you only get 90 seconds. So a minute and a half is not a long time to make your case. We make submissions. We try to meet with UN officials, although many refuse to meet with anyone that isn't anti-Israel, including this commission. And we can attend events here. Yesterday, in fact, however, I was at this horrible event sponsored by a Palestinian NGO that gets a lot of European funding. There were actually European representatives in the room, notably from the Swiss government. And at this commission, at this NGO meeting, they were accusing Israel of all the worst things you could imagine: apartheid, pinkwashing, just horrible things. Happy that the Human Rights Council has moved from 67 agenda to a 48 agenda, which means the elimination of Israel. And these are all the things that are being openly stated with no opposition at the UN Human Rights Council. So, we try to be there as an opposing voice, but, we're one of only a few people there that actually oppose, these false claims and the malicious types of campaigning going on here. So it is an uphill battle.
Do we really need the United Nations anymore? Because it's actually becoming a farce.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a farce for a long time. I do think there are certain things about the UN that are probably a good thing to have. I think it's good to have a global forum where countries can get together to dialogue. I'm not sure, this system where it's primarily just resolutions and producing meaningless reports is worth the expense. I think it could be trimmed down massively. It's basically just a huge employment agency costing billions and billions of dollars each year. There are certain agencies that do good things, like the refugee agency. But for the most part, most of the things that's going on here could go away and no one would miss it.
Let's talk about these Israeli NGOs that cooperate on these type of reports. I'm sure we can rattle their names off verbatim: Breaking the Silence, B'Tselem, and all. How do they work when it comes to their funding and the kind of rhetoric that they employ?
Yeah, I mean, many of them are getting, most of their budgets from governments or via church agencies, humanitarian aid agencies that are getting their money from governments. So some of these NGOs, their budgets are 80, 90, even 100% government funded. So the COI and some UN officials like to defame us. In the report, we're defamed. Last year, we were defamed as being what is known as a gongo, a government NGO, falsely claiming we're collaborating with the Israeli government on our work, which is totally false. But, when you look at these organizations, they're 100% funded, 90, 80% funded by European governments. But they're not calling them a gongo, which just shows how political this terminology is. But yeah, I mean, they have their political opinions. And unfortunately, there's a very big audience, primarily again in Europe, to hear specious claims about Israel and about Jews that are happy to pay for it. And, rather than working in Israeli society to try to make changes, some of these groups have even shunned Israeli society and just basically want, an international coalition of dictatorships, essentially the Arab countries, the Islamic countries, to impose, one state elimination of Israel's solution.
Let me just remind.
It goes far beyond, or I was just going to say, it just goes far beyond, what they would say, ending the 67 occupation in their parlance.
But not only that, is the accusation of apartheid. I just want to remind these NGOs, as somebody who grew up in South Africa during the apartheid years, the presence of NGOs or any bodies that so vocally opposed apartheid wouldn't have the freedoms that the B'Tselems and the Breaking the Silence, etc., enjoy. They would be sitting in jail cells. Some of their members would mysteriously die while slipping on a bar of soap, because that's how it worked. The very, very fact that they are able to exist, albeit with a lot of criticism, a lot of resistance from government officials and NGOs, as there should be in a democracy. The very fact that they are allowed to exist and shoot their mouths off at any given opportunity is so completely against the charge of apartheid. And no B'Tselem, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, and Breaking the Silence et al., you cannot redefine apartheid to suit your agenda. Take it from us South Africans. We want our narrative and our historical experience, which is unique to us, back from you. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So what do we think?
It's basically apartheid denial. It's apartheid denial.
You know what? That is an excellent phrase, apartheid denial. I think we need to start deploying that. That is excellent. And full credit to our lioness, Anne. Now, Anne, what do you think is going to happen as a result of this ludicrous report?
Well, unfortunately, normally I would say, the typical Israeli kind of shmoom, who cares? But this commission was established to, number one, promote boycotts. So they are hoping to, come up with names of people and companies to boycott. They already, make hints about that in this latest report, going after El Al in the report. So that's a primary goal of theirs. And then the other goal is this commission, which is a new thing that's been happening at the UN, is to what they call collect evidence for the International Criminal Court. Now, this evidence is bogus. It's, not collected in a forensically acceptable way. It's not stored in a forensically acceptable way. And, if the International Criminal Court is deluded enough to rely on this evidence, well, that's all you need to know about the International Criminal Courts and how they work. But, that remains to be seen. But that, again, is also the primary goal. So my guess is they're handing over names to the court that they want to have investigated.
Smacks of 1938 Germany to me. I mean, let's just back up a second. Why the focus on El Al? What is their accusation against the Israeli national carrier?
Yeah, they have an absurd accusation in there that there was a terrorist who actually was in jail for trying to assassinate Rabbi Avadia Yosef, and he was released in a Shalit deal, but clearly did not cease his terrorist activities because he was in and out of jail over the 10 years or so that he was following the Shalit deal. And he was deported to France last year because he's a dual national. So he was deported and presumably, I guess, flew on an El Al plane to get to France. And so now they're accusing El Al of committing aiding and abetting war crimes for flying him to France. But that's the kind of absurd nonsense that they're pushing.
It is completely absurd. Human rights icon and real national treasure Natan Sharansky defined anti-Semitism along 3 Ds: demonization, delegitimization, and double standards. And I think if you run this through the lens of all that, all the alarm bells will ring. This is absolutely insanity. I mean, listeners, we told you we would get your blood pressure up at the very mention of the United Nations. And I think from all of us in this country, from Jews around the world, we cannot thank you enough for being there, for being present in the room, for taking this on, for being at the vanguard of defending the state of Israel against the most ludicrous accusations and charges in the world. Really, I thank you to you, and thank you to NGO Monitor that works tirelessly to expose this.
Thank you so much.
That was Anne Herzberg, really an extraordinary woman, an Eshet Chayil, the legal advisor to NGO Monitor, their representative to the United Nations, live from Geneva, from the UNHRC. I don't know about you guys, but I need to get my blood pressure down. So we're going to take a short music break. And coming up after this, she's the queen of all things entertainment. It's Yael Kinar.
אושר מתקרב, הצלחת להתגנב, אושר לא עוזב, הוא מתגלה בחושך, בכל קצוות תבל, מי שהוא מסתכל, אומר תודה לאל, על אהבת אמת, איך שאת רוקדת, גם הלב שלי רוקד איתנו. מים רבים לא יחברו את האש שלנו. ואת יחפה, אדמה רועדת, איך אחרי כל השנים הרגשתי שייך, בת מהמדבר כמו סופה נודדת, כשחיפשתי את עצמי מצאתי אותה. רוצה להתמכר לטוב שמתגבר, אם הלב אומר בטח שהוא יודע, תכף נתעורר לניגון אחר, לא צריך יותר, יש עוד מסע שלם, איך שאת רוקדת גם הכוכבים רוקדים איתנו. מים רבים לא יכבו את האש שלנו, לא. ואת יחפה אדמה רועדת, איך אחרי כל השנים הרגשתי שייך, בת מהמדבר כמו סופה נודדת, כשחיפשתי את עצמי מצאתי אותה. מצאתי אותך. איך שאת רוקדת מים רבים ואת יחפה אדמה רועדת, איך אחרי כל השנים הרגשתי שייך, בת מהמדבר כמו סופה נודדת, כשחיפשתי את עצמי מצאתי אותה. ואת יחפה אדמה רועדת, איך אחרי כל השנים הרגשתי שייך, בת מהמדבר כמו סופה נודדת, כשחיפשתי את עצמי מצאתי אותה.
Eliad and Massa. And just a reminder, I'm sure like me, you all need a little bit of a come down after that. Nothing gets us all fired up like the very mention of the United Nations. But just a reminder that if you want to advertise on Radio Modiin, check us out at radiomodiin.co.il. And hey, if you want to be on Modiin and beyond, because we love, or rather I love to speak to Modiin-based businesses, please be in touch with me. I can already give you a little bit of a taster coming up next week. We're going to be speaking sports with David Wiseman. I'm going to be speaking to Anita Friedman, the chairperson of World WITA. We're going to be talking about the very, very controversial law in the Knesset about bracelets for domestic violence abusers, and we're going to be talking whiskey with a very special guest. But I tell you who is extremely special. She's the queen of entertainment. We love her so much on Modiin and beyond. It is Yael Kinar. Yael, looking so sunshiny in your yellow.
Mellow yellow today, that is the vibe.
That is the vibe. So much happening in the world of entertainment. We have to go to a concert that happened this past weekend because it really was beyond me. I mean, one can't accuse the Kardashians of not invading our privacy. Let's have a look at what happened. Tell us what happened.
Well, Kourtney Kardashian, who got married to Travis Barker a year ago in Italy in a highly televised multi-series event. He's a drummer of we remember the fashion moments of it all. He's a drummer of a band called Blink 182. And during his very televised concert, she held up a sign, which is actually a reference to a music video of that band of many years ago, saying, "Travis, I'm pregnant." And the surprise, the delight, they're running off the stage and kissing her. Meanwhile, she's like 5 months pregnant already. He's aware, but we weren't aware. And she made sure we were aware. So during the last season of Keeping Up with It, well, it's now rebranded as just The Kardashians. There was talk of the fact that even though they already have 6 children between them, she has 3 with her ex, Scott Disick. He has 3 with his ex, Shauna Moakler. And Kourtney's 44, he's 47. He has tremendous health issues after having been in a horrific plane crash years ago. But they are very traditionally deciding to get married and have children or have a child. So there was talk of their IVF journey last year, which was not successful. And Kourtney said that she was experiencing some side effects in the hormones and depression, and they were going to stop and see what happens. And what happened is, in the Kardashian way of we get what we want with some science and some money, she's pregnant.
But you know what I always find amazing is that the minute you let go of something, be it looking for a job, looking for a man, falling pregnant, or whatever, you release that resistance and things come to you. But you know, people may not be aware that Travis Barker is actually one of the best drummers in the world. He's considered one of the best drummers in the world. Interesting and useless information for the day, but I don't know. Maybe
not at all useless. It just shows that he's a man of his own right, and his fans of many years were outraged where some of the press coverage lately has been Kourtney's husband, Travis, and it was like, what? You mean legendary Travis Barker, who has a tremendous following? But once you're affiliated with the Kardashian, whether you're Kanye West, whoever you are, you take second fiddle.
I mean, call me old-fashioned, a cynic, but I just think that things as precious as that should be kept private. But I suppose, you know, the Kardashians, bless them.
Their bank accounts would beg to differ because at least two of her previous births, when the father was Scott Disick and she was on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, were on the show with cameras in the delivery room. So I don't think they have the same sense of mystery and privacy as you do, my dear.
No sense of proprietary at all. Somebody else who likes to invade our privacy. And I'm sorry, here I heard the karma train coming choo down the track. Somebody got canned by Spotify, and not only that, somebody got absolutely trashed in the media by a Spotify exec. I mean, this is mortifying. I don't think we have seen such a spectacular fall from grace. And you know, we don't like to talk about it, but this is such a big story. There's no avoiding it. Woofty, Yael.
Bring it to you, Rolene, but Ms. Meghan Markle will be just fine with or without us. It's true. Her $20 million contract with Spotify, which was undeserved in the first place, in my opinion. And there was a lot of criticism over the content she was producing. It sounded like she was reading off a piece of paper. Everything was very rehearsed. Nothing exciting in particular was happening. And aside from this highly negotiated amount of money, which in the end is all hype and not really worth it, which you and I happen to believe applies to other areas of their existence, but not everyone else does. And we shall see. I don't think that Meghan and Harry will be homeless and poor anytime soon. Not that we wish that for them. But yeah, all the hopes and dreams of maintaining one's privacy, again, fake privacy, back to our full circle moment from the Kardashians before, wanting all the world's attention, not really having much to provide except for rehashing the past. It seems that the Spotify market for Ms. Markle's podcast is not really there. And we're okay with it.
And rumor is Netflix are to follow, but I think they've lost their shine in the United States as well. I think people have just had enough. And Duke and Duchess of privacy, you can't blame the British media for this because it's the media throughout the world have had enough of your shenanigans. But I mean, I looked at the transcripts for these podcasts, and I've never seen a bigger opportunity to miss an opportunity. When you have got mega stars like Serena Williams and you're talking about ambition and you somehow bring it all the way back to yourself again, you've missed an opportunity to speak to the biggest sportswoman in the world about the ambition that it takes to make you the biggest sportswoman in the world. And also, weren't some of the issues she discussed like way past us in our history? I mean, we women now face a whole other battery of issues to deal with, and the ones that she kept bringing up every week, the B word and ambition, we're so over that anyway.
Yeah, it was very sort of manufactured, not organic. People didn't appreciate it. It was humorless. And I don't know, she annoyed a lot of people, which some of us has already come pre-annoyed. So join the club.
Let's also talk about, I'm very confused with this story. Tory spelling. Are they, aren't they? They're splitting, they're not splitting.
Ay, ay, ay. She, poor little rich girl, is how I would describe Tori Spelling, who really grew up with tremendous wealth and fame and opportunity, being the daughter of Aaron Spelling, legendary Hollywood producer of, you know, The Love Boat, Dynasty, Melrose Place, Beverly Hills 90210, where he cast his daughter, Tori Spelling, as Donna Martin, the character. And when he passed away, with a fortune of $500 million, he left her and her brother $800,000 each, less than 2% of the estate. And it was confusing. She has contentious relationship with her mother, Candy. They are on speaking terms, they're not on speaking terms, but she grew up in the largest house in Los Angeles, grew up with a lot of wealth, and as an adult didn't have access to the same wealth and started doing reality TV, met and married her husband, Dean McDermott, while they were both married to other people. So speaking of karma, sometimes how you meet them is how you lose them. They've been together a long time. They've been together 17 years. They have 5 children, but really for the last almost decade, it's been on and off. He's cheating, infidelity. Has he moved in? Has he moved out? I think they spent all of COVID apart. And they have made Instagram official announcement that they are going to be leading separate lives. I feel bad for her. I feel like she had one would think that she would have an easy life, but it hasn't worked out that way. They've had health issues with some of the kids. He has mold in her house. She has had to move out. He keeps cheating and coming back. She's not close with her mother. She doesn't have the money people think she has. And maybe really all we need is love.
All we need is love. And all we need is you, Yael Kinar, our entertainment queen. We're not going to speak to you next week, and I miss you already, but we will speak to you in 2 weeks' time. Big loves, big hearts to you. And that's a wrap from me, Rolene Marks, on Modiin and Beyond today on Radio Modiin. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you to Per behind the scenes, twiddling the buttons, waving to me every now and then. Thank you to my guests, Emily Schrader and Herzberg and Yael Kinar. We're going to play out with a special request from a special man, my husband. I can't say no to him, and nor should I ever. I will catch you again next week for another edition of Modiin and Beyond.
Under the blue moon I saw you, so soon you'll take me up in your arms, too late to beg you or cancel it, though I know it must be the killing time. Unwillingly mine. Fate up against your will, through the thick and thin, he will wait until you give yourself to him. In the starlit nights I saw you, so cruelly you kissed me. Your lips a magic word, your sky all hung with jewels. The killing moon will come too soon. Fate up against your will, through the thick and thin, he will wait until you give yourself to him. Under the blue moon I saw you, so soon you'll take me up in your arms, too late to beg you or cancel it, though I know it must be killing time, unwillingly mine. Fate up against your will, through the thick and thin, he will wait until you give yourself to him. Fate up against your will, through the thick and thin, he will wait until you give yourself to him.